Okay, so it looks like we're a little bit past the hour now, so we'll go ahead and get started. Today's webinar is the next in our webinar series. My name is Inessa Gore, and I am a communication specialist here at Rahi Systems in California. Today we have Crestron, who will be partnering alongside with us, and our topic will be a virtual tour in today's modern workplace environment. On behalf of Crestron, we will have Roger DeCox here speaking with us. Roger is a 23-year veteran in the audiovisual industry, and over the last 15 years, Roger has worked on the manufacturing side for Crestron. Roger is the Director of Consultant Programs and has held prior roles as Director of Education Programs as well as National and Regional Sales Manager. Before I hand it over to Roger, I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that if you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to submit them to the chat box. After the presentation is over, we will do a Q&A at the end, and we will try to answer as many questions as possible. If we don't have time to get to yours today, we will definitely be reaching out to you to make sure that we answer your question. I'll go ahead and hand it over to Roger now. Roger, it's all yours.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for taking the time again. I'm very excited to give you some overview on Crestron. This presentation is not going to get product specific. There may be a few products here and there that we do talk about, but my goal is to more give you an overview of Crestron and the different areas that Crestron can help with technology in your rooms, in your buildings, and in all spaces all over the place. So, first thing, as we get started, we're going to take a look today at the user and management experience before, during, and after you use a room that has technology. So our goal is to give you that full experience from a Crestron perspective of what can be accomplished. All right, so before you enter a room, you need to make sure that the space is ready. So what this involves is that it's scheduled, that the technology in the room is ready, the HVAC system is ready, the lights are ready, and the shades have been set to the proper position. When we look at room scheduling, there's a lot of different options. As you can see from some of the pictures on the screen, there's indicators that tell you whether or not the room is occupied or not. That would be green or red. There's touch panels that you can have information on displaying your meeting so that you can walk up to any room and you can see whether or not the room is reserved for you or if a room is available that you can go ahead and right there select that room and reserve it and have your meeting. The whole idea is that it's welcoming. You're finding where you want to go, you're looking down the hall, and you're finding that open room, or you're finding the correct room that you should be going to. One of the things that Crestron has put together to make it even easier to do room finding is a software application for your phones called Pinpoint. Pinpoint has the ability for you to open up the app and using Bluetooth beacons and different Crestron products that you currently may have or may be buying here in the very near future, can identify exactly where you are in the building. By knowing where you are, it will be able to tell you which spaces are around you that you can go to, and you would be able to reserve those spaces right now. When you look at those different spaces, you'd be able to see what technology is available in those rooms, and you would also be able to book that room from your phone. Once you get to the room, your phone will know that you're there, and it would give you the opportunity to present from your phone, all using this wonderful Pinpoint app. So we're very excited that this is part of our whole room scheduling and room finding capability. Once you actually arrive in the room that you're going to, that you're going to have your meeting or your presentation, then we want to talk about the in-room technology as far as the user interface. So when we get to the user interface, now this is your main interface that's going to make everything happen. So this is what's going to turn things on, turn things off, select the right input, and do all of that. turn the volume up, mute the volume, mute the microphones, and all that. So this can be done with a touch screen, as you can see at the top of the screen there, or a button panel. Those are in the middle of the screen. Maybe you'd like to use a tablet or a phone. Those are at the bottom right-hand corner. Maybe you just want to use a computer or auto sensing. So let me just briefly go over some of the differences between these. Touchscreen is very similar to a phone or tablet idea, but it's a dedicated device. Touchscreens from Crestron are dedicated devices that run typically on PoE unless they're very large, where they use dedicated power, but they're dedicated to only run Crestron. That means that when you walk up to it, it's always running the Crestron application for that room, and you can always control the room. Well, tablets and phones are great devices and can do the exact same thing as a touch panel. They're not always running that Crestron application. Someone may have gone into Safari or into Chrome. They might be surfing the internet. They might be looking at some email, and you might be on a conference call and you need to hit mute very quickly. And if they're not on the right page in that device, then it's very difficult to get to mute quickly, where that touch panel will always be there and always have that mute button available. When I mentioned a computer, we have some software called an X panel. Xpanel's been around for a long time. In fact, it's probably close to 20 years now that we've been offering Xpanel. From Crestron, it's a free piece of software. Now, of course, it has to be customized, and your integrator is going to customize that, make it work with your exact system. But it can work exactly like your touch panel and run on your PC or your Mac. So it makes it very easy to use a computer that's in the room with your mouse or a touchscreen on that computer to control that room as well. Now, the difference between any of these buttons and a button panel is that the button panel that you see in the middle of the screen there, those buttons can't change what they say on them. They can only change as far as selected or non-selected state. But any button can do anything. So if you look at, for example, the lights button on that touch panel, you can push that lights button and it will give you the same control as a light button on a button panel, as a light button on a handheld remote control, on that X panel on the computer, or on your phone or tablet. It's just very important to understand that any device from Crestron that provides control can give you control of anything, any way that you would like it. And typically, when we help people try to decide which control interface to use, it comes down to how you use the room, how many different devices are being controlled, and what you ultimately want to accomplish. And that will decide whether you want to use buttons or handhelds or on the table or in the wall and things like that. Auto sensing is another one. Sometimes you just want to be able to walk into the room, plug something in, and have all the magic happen. We provide that as well through many products where you just have a connection. Somebody walks in with their laptop, they plug in, and their image appears on the screen. So the user interface is a very important part of actually having a successful meeting. The environment. Whether you're talking about HVAC, lighting, or shades are also part of every room and every technology space that you're in. Otherwise, you'd be sitting in the dark all the time, either too hot or too cold, and then you'd be hoping either for the sun to go away or for the sun to come out so you can see what's going on. But working together, because Crestron will control the shades, we will control the lights, and we will control the HVAC, working together we can give everybody a room experience so that when the room is not in use, the room will go into a shutdown mode, and when the room is in use, it can be perfect for that time of day. Because the Crestron system can be told its latitude and longitude, it knows the position of the sun, so that in the afternoon on a southwest facing window, maybe in Phoenix, Arizona, maybe you have those shades down. Maybe you have blackout shades down in order to try to let the HVAC system not have to work so hard. But maybe if you're in Northern California and you have a north-facing conference room, you open up those windows so that you can bring in some natural light and you can have a feeling of openness while you're having those meetings. And the Crestron system can automate that so that when somebody walks in the room and has their meeting, that just happens as part of the meeting every time, and they don't have to figure out how to make it happen. So during the meeting, you're going to have some interaction with different technologies. There's video, there's audio, there's interactive surfaces, Wi-Fi, and wired LAN. Some of the video inputs might include some unified communication products. This would be something like a desktop phone or a speakerphone, maybe a collaboration soundbar, or one of our newer collaboration engines. So we can have unified collaboration across any type of a solution that somebody would like. Crestron also natively supports a lot of third-party unified collaboration applications natively. So if you're using Microsoft Teams, Skype for Business, or Zoom, Crestron would be able to support that natively in the hardware in the room. But have no fear, we're completely open unified collaboration, which means that you're not limited to Teams or Skype or Zoom. You can use Adobe Connect or WebEx or anything that you'd like with any of our Crestron UC solutions. Now, one of the most important things anytime you're using a room with technology for a meeting or a presentation, of course, is how do I connect to the room? How do I connect to the technology in order to be successful? So Crestron tries to make it as easy as possible. We offer table inputs with our new flip-top boxes or our old flip-top boxes, and you can see that at the top of the screen on the right. We offer wall mount inputs, like you see in the middle of the screen on the right, and we offer wireless solutions so that somebody can walk into the room with a tablet, a computer, a phone, and present right from that without having to use any cables at all. We also have the ability to tie in digital signage and messaging to the rooms. What this allows you to do is when the room is not in use, you can have it turned to a digital signage input. And this way, whenever the technology is not being used, it's being used for digital signage. And also at the same time, if there's a good or a bad message that has to be sent out throughout the entire campus, the sad part about this one is it is a response to bad things happening in larger places. You can send information on how you need people to react, if you need a lockdown, if you need to shelter in place, and things like that. Or we can talk about happy things like, hey, our company just went public and we just had a great IPO. And you want to send that message out to everybody through the video system. You can do that through Crestron as well. So connectivity is extremely important, and Crestron has everything covered in that area. Distribution. This is the core of any video system. Distribution is one of the most important things that you're going to make a decision on that you'll never actually see, because this is what happens behind the scenes for the most part. But when we talk about distribution, we talk about different ways to extend video signals. So there's really about 5 different ways to do this. Of course, Crestron supplies solutions in all 5 different areas. One of those is to use traditional wires. You know, your HDMI cable or your old VGA cable were what we'd call traditional cables or wires, where you would go to the store, you'd buy a wire, and you'd connect it from point to point. Those are good for up to about 30 feet. After 30 feet, you've got to use something that has a little more distance. So one of the things that came out about 8 years ago was this technology called HD-Base-T. This uses a traditional Cat5, Cat6, or Cat7 wire, depending on the distance and the resolution, to go up to 330 feet. Now, for everybody who's international outside the United States, that's 100 meters that you'd be looking at in that case, and traditional wires are good to about 10 meters. So HD-Base-T, we have plenty of solutions that can do that, and in fact, most of our DM or digital media line uses that technology. We also have solutions that use fiber. So that if you'd like to go for miles, because fiber can go miles and miles or kilometers and kilometers, depending on where you are, fiber is also more secure because it's using glass and lasers. If somebody tries to hack into it, it's going to break down and you're going to know about it very quickly. So fiber is available from Crestron as a solution, and we can use that today. Now, we move to more of the network-based world. We have two network-based solutions. One of those is using your LAN for high quality, low latency distribution of video on a traditional 1 gigabit network switch. And that's a product we call NVX. Now, this is a high quality product that looks fantastic with a very light compression on the video with very low latency, and that's intended to be on your local LAN. You're not going to go out over the internet with that. If you need to go over the internet, we do use some products that we have with H.264 technology for compression, where we can start at about 500 kilobits, and we can send that out over the internet, and we can go up to 25 megabits. Now, it's going to have a little bit of latency, so you won't be exactly at the same split second like you would with the NVX product, but we'll be able to get your video distributed not only in the room, but anywhere in the world at the same time or close to the same time. There's some great stories that I have. Next time you run into me, ask me about latency stories and my wife and baseball games because I have a great story. But I don't have time for that today because that's going to take a few minutes to tell that story. But she got hit by latency one day, and it was hilarious when she realized why she was having the experience she was having. Let's talk about security just a little bit. You can see on the screen there a bunch of different security protocols that Crestron uses with video on the network. We do it with a lot of different products as well on top of just video distribution. Security is extremely important. You have to make sure that the content that you're distributing when you're using your network is secure, that no one else is seeing something that you don't want them to see. You know, if you're in the medical field, obviously you have to worry about HIPAA requirements. If you're a public company and you're doing an earnings practice call, if you're an instructor at a university and you're practicing giving a test, you have to make sure that that video is secure. Crestron is one of the only companies in the world dedicated to not only encrypting the signal on the network, but also encrypting all of the boxes that go on the network as well, and limiting who has access to them and who can communicate with them. Because just encrypting the signal itself of the video means that all I have to do is get that secret decoder box, which is the same box for anyone who has that technology, and be able to put it on the network and I can look at anything. Crestron doesn't make it that easy, and that's why we have 802.1x Active Directory and everything else to be able to secure that communication. So make sure it's secure, and that's what Crestron does. As we look at our distribution a little bit more, when you're looking at your rooms, you're going to look at a single display, maybe multiple displays, like dual display you see in the middle there, or maybe even a sports bar, like you see down at the bottom. That happens to be the Peppermill Casino, or a video wall, as we show in our New Jersey Experience Center in the upper right-hand corner. That's a 3x3 video wall. We can help you distribute that video to any type of solution and any number of outputs that you would like as you're doing all of that. Your outputs generally take the form of just a few things. Flat panel displays have absolutely become the most popular product today. That's your TVs. Anything up to a 90, 120 inch, whatever you can buy today that's going to fit into that room and you can get into that building, that's what you're going to do on a flat panel. Projectors and screens are still inexpensive ways to get large images as well. So that's one way you're going to go. Don't forget, video conferencing is not only an input to your system, it's also an output to your system. So I have to go out of my distribution system and into the video conferencing system for a way to communicate that way. If I'm going to stream over the internet or I'm going to record locally, those are considered outputs as well. So I need to be able to make sure that all of my inputs are distributed and then output to everywhere that they need to go as part of my solution. And that's just for video. When we talk about audio, we have additional inputs from computers and phones, microphones, disc players, all kinds of wonderful inputs like that that can come in separately with or without audio as well, or without video on your audio. Audio gets distributed very much like video does, but with a few differences. You have switchers, but you have mixers, and you have digital signal processors, and you have amplifiers. This is part of the distribution part of audio because you can mix multiple audio feeds together and provide a voice overlay. You can you can bring all those microphones in and mix all the microphones together. But then you have a bunch of open microphones and you have to have a DSP that's going to control your feedback and have echo cancellation. And you have to have an amplifier because when you have an amplifier, you have to get your audio out to go into the room. And your outputs in the audio world are speakers for the most part, whether they're hanging on the ceiling or dangling from the ceiling or on the wall or a sound bar. But it could also be conferencing, like going to Skype or Teams. Maybe you're recording your audio for a podcast, or maybe you're going to stream it to one of the more popular streaming apps out there in the world. Audio is going to take on an entire life, and you have to consider not only where your video goes, but your audio may go someplace different as well. Interactive surfaces. Well, obviously we talked about the touchscreen already where we've got control, but there's also the ability to use a touchscreen for annotation so that I can draw over my PowerPoint or my spreadsheet or my document or my web page, whatever I'm presenting in the room, I can annotate over that. Then I even have the ability with a new product that we have to capture a whiteboard so that I can bring a traditional old school whiteboard and put it on a display screen and then share it across technologies, whether I'm sharing it over Zoom or Skype or whatever, but I'm using just a traditional old school whiteboard that some people favor over everything else. So let's talk about the user and management experience after your meeting. We need to reset the room and we need to get some data on what happened. The room reset is easy. The whole idea here is that we want everyone who walks into the room to start at the beginning again. This way the touchscreen is greeting them. Maybe it has the scheduling information, has the name of their meeting on there and how long of a meeting they're going to have. The screen is on the default input. Any cables that were used from one of our flip-top boxes maybe have been retracted so that the table doesn't have anything out on the table. And for anybody who walks into the room and wants to do a wireless presentation, the wireless connection info is on the screen. So they can just walk into the room and successfully connect their PC or their Mac or their tablet or their phone and do their presentation. Don't forget, we want to collect the data. We want to find out how much the devices are being used, how much the display was used, if people actually showed up, the status of the meeting. We want to know about inventory and what's there. And we also want to be able to get some reports and some ROI so we can show that we've made some good buying decisions on the technology that we put in those rooms. And that's where Crestron Fusion comes into play. And then finally, Crestron XIO Cloud. This is a way to deploy, manage, monitor, and evolve your systems all in a cloud-based solution so that we can help have installations up and running faster and more consistently. We can help manage and keep thousands of devices up to date all at the same time. And we can see what's going on remotely to make sure that devices have more uptime. And then we'll continually evolve in order to make sure that everything continues to be as up to date as possible. So we've been able to talk about the technology before you walk into a room and see that scheduling panel and know where to go and reserve that room so that we know that you have access to it. We've talked about using the room and connecting, whether you're connecting with a wire or wireless, and being successful with your presentation. And we've talked about after the meeting, being able to see the big data, being able to make sure everything's working for the next person and have that room reset. I really do appreciate all of your time. Thank you so much. And next time you go to Infocom, look for me on the show floor at Crestron. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Great. So thank you for that presentation today, Roger. It actually looks like we have a number of questions in the chat box. So we'll go ahead and get started with that. It looks like the first one for you, Roger, is What if I use G Suite for my room scheduling today? Will that work with Crestron?
All right, that's a good question. So what if you're using G Suite today for scheduling, and will that work with Crestron for the scheduling panels? So yes, there's no question about it. G Suite, Microsoft Exchange, or Office 365, you actually have the ability for a direct connection so that we can just configure the panel to work with those three different solutions. At the same time, something that we added recently, if you're using Team or Robin or EMS or AppSpace, you're able to put the panel into a mode for scheduling so that it will have a direct connection to those as well. So that instead of putting an iPad outside of the door, an iPad is a great device, it can do a lot of things, but the iPad also has a battery and it runs on Wi-Fi all the time. So if you can put a Crestron panel outside of the door, it's connected over PoE. It does not have a battery and it was designed to run 24/7 with that screen on if you'd like, or only on when somebody walks up and the occupancy sensor notices somebody there today. So great question, and yes, we can use those third-party scheduling solutions with no problem.
Second question in is, so I use Zoom. What options do I have with Crestron in the conference rooms?
Oh, one of my favorite questions. If you use Zoom, what options do I have to work with Crestron in conference rooms? Well, I have great news for you. So right now, Crestron has a partnership with Zoom, in addition to Microsoft, and we're of course developing more partnerships. But what we've been able to do on one of our products, the Mercury product to be specific, we've been able to embed the Zoom application for the Zoom room into the product so that instead of having to use a separate tablet, a separate wireless microphone or microphone system, and a separate soundbar or speaker system, you're able to use the Crestron Mercury product with the Zoom interface actually on the product and take advantage of the mic array and the speaker right there as that connects to the Zoom PC or the Mac Mini that the Zoom is using to be able to create the Zoom room. Very similar to what we're able to do with Skype or Teams in the Microsoft environment. We can have Skype or Teams run for one touch join on the same Mercury product. It's just a matter of when you set it up, configuring it to be able to run in that way, which just goes to show you that when you buy the Crestron piece, that can be an open collaboration piece, and you want to dedicate it to one piece of software. If that software changes that you want to use in the future, Crestron is not going to force you to go out and buy new hardware. You'll probably be able to go in and just change the configuration and be able to continue to use that same hardware with a completely different software interface. So I do enjoy that question.
Okay, great. For our third question, we have, is there a way to manage my rooms from the cloud?
Oh, as times have evolved, so have the questions that people ask. So, yes, there is definitely a way to manage rooms from the cloud with Crestron. In fact, there's two ways. Crestron introduced a solution called Room View almost 20 years ago. It was a direct response to when we first started using our X panel to be able to control the rooms. What was happening was people were taking these X panels on the network and putting them in folders. And ultimately, they were asking us to be able to make a single interface so that they didn't have to continue to open up individual room interfaces over the network to see what the status was. So we developed RoomView as a solution for that. Well, RoomView evolved into a network-based solution called Fusion, and then Fusion evolved into a cloud-based solution or an on-premises solution so that you can use Fusion as a server at your location, or you can use Fusion in the cloud to be able to just log in from anywhere and monitor multiple locations with a single Fusion license to be able to do that. We also have the ability with our new XIO cloud to be able to look at what's going on, manage the rooms, be able to monitor some of what's going on, and then deploy those rooms faster from the cloud as well. So we are very much dedicated. We use the Microsoft Azure cloud and their backbone. So it's as secure as every Skype call, Teams call, and Office 365 document that you store in OneDrive. So that's where Crestron is. And we're going to continue to evolve that because as more and more demands for big data are starting to happen, of where we've been already collecting that data and making that data available to everybody. Now people are looking at that and wanting to make more and more decisions off of it. So we're excited that we've been doing it for a while. We're also excited that now people are really looking for what we have to offer. So both Fusion and the XIO Cloud are two great ways to manage rooms from the cloud with Crestron.
Okay, and it looks like we have time for just one more question. The last question is, what types of connections options are available for the flip-top boxes?
These flip-top boxes are very popular because every room you walk into, one of the first things you're trying to do is connect your device, whether it's a PC or a Mac. You want to be able to walk into the room, sit down at the table, open up your flip-top, and you want to be able to connect very quickly just by pulling out a cable and plugging it in to make it very fast. So what types of connections are available is a great question for what's available on the flip-top boxes. So obviously, everything that you want. How does that sound? So there's different ways to look at this. So obviously the most important one for everybody is HDMI, and then there's DisplayPort, there's Mini DisplayPort, there's USB-C, there's old VGA, there's Cat 5 connection, there's a USB connection. I think I'm missing a few of them out there, but we have a bunch of different options as far as the cables themselves. But even more important is the type of connection in the flip-top box. So we have the ability, if you want to use a powered box, where we have a one-touch retraction. So you push a button and then slowly the cables will retract electrically. So that it's not coming in on a pulley system. It's not going to hit your finger and injure you as the cables are coming in flying. You're going to do one touch and the cable will slowly retract back into the box, which is really nice. We also have a gravity option. With the gravity option, you literally hold the cable over the box and let go, and then it will go into that box and go away. And then after the gravity option, we've got some other keystone connectors. You have some connection plates so that if you want to just have your cable external and then plug your cable into the box, we can do that rather than pulling the cable out of the box. What's also really cool about the flip-top box is it's not something that would be for video connectivity, but for power. We have the ability for you to connect on a USB port for your iPad or your tablet or your phone with a USB connection for a super fast charge. I mean, super fast charge, like 75% charge in 20 minutes. And we have a USB-C connection for charging a computer on there as well, since most of the newer computers are going USB-C. And that is also another fast charge port. So the idea being I can walk into the room, I can connect all my devices, do my presentation, have my collaborative meeting, and charge my devices at the same time as I continue to move through the building during the day. I'm never going to be at a point where walking into a conference room drains my batteries. And those flip-top boxes are going to make it very, very easy to accomplish everything you're looking to do. Plus, they're flexible, so I can change what's in there. So if you end up getting a flip-top box and you think you know what you want, they're available in a variety of sizes, and ultimately you don't maybe use one or two of the different connections. Maybe it's a power or a dual power or a triple power, or maybe it's network connectivity. Maybe you don't use something that's in there. You can go back later and you can have it changed. And it doesn't cost you a ton to go back and have it changed. It's literally someone has to come in there and do a little bit of separation and then put the new piece in, take the old one out, and maybe put that in another room for you. So great question about flip-top boxes. We've got a ton of options, and we look forward to sharing all that.
Awesome. So it actually looks like that's all that we have time for today. But I just want to give a huge thanks to all of you for attending, and a really big thanks to Roger for taking the time out to speak with all of us today and answer those questions. It actually looks like I have had a couple questions pop up towards the end, so I'll make sure that we reach out to you individually and get your questions answered. For more information on anything Rahi Systems related, please feel free to visit us at rahisystems.com. We have our next webinar in December with Bose on Wednesday, December 12th. Visit us at rahisystems.com/resources/webinars to register today. We look forward to seeing you all again in December. Thank you so much.